Hi everyone, I'm Bo, and I'm the teacher for Freedom Beyond Recovery, Awakening Clarity Now's new program that addresses our primary addiction to believing in separation, believing that there is a me that life is happening to, that there is a me that needs an external substance or a relationship or an experience to feel better, to be okay, to be complete, to be whole, to be good enough, to be deserving of life. And so in this program, we explore all these common addictions like alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, video game addiction, codependency, um, food addictions, different process addictions. Um, we use those common expressions of addiction as entry points to explore this more primary and fundamental addiction that we all have, which is to believing in separation, to believing that I'm someone that life is happening to. So, if you want more information on the program, go to Awakening Clarity Now and view the All Products page, I believe, and you'll have more resources available there. Um, I've tried to cut this video many times. It's been over 20 at this point, no doubt. So I'm going to try to keep it focused. So yeah, if you're curious about the program, curious about what's being offered, just go to Awakening Clarity Now, and you'll have all the information that you need there. So for this video, I've been asked to talk about the backwards teaching or backwards pointing. It's this characteristic of the living method that um, is very, I'll say, unique to Fred's teaching, um, but it's also one of the aspects of freedom beyond recovery that I have emphasized as a way of being able to effectively address um, this this core addiction to separation and believing that we're a self, um, that I feel resolves a lot of the issues that comes with not only believing in thought and believing that we're a separate self, but also in addressing the momentum and craving in conventional addictions, like needing alcohol to feel okay, or needing to spend a lot of money on material goods to feel satisfied, or needing to control others in relationship to feel a sense of validation and um, some sense of peace and equanimity. Um, so this backwards pointing um, is is very important when addressing these issues, specifically addiction. Um, so what is backwards pointing? What is the backwards teaching? Um, so within non-duality, backwards pointing is pointing to the fact that what has an insight, what wakes up, what is clear, what has an awakening, or what recognizes its true nature isn't a body, it's not a mind, it's awakeness. There's only awakeness, there's only oneness. And so there isn't any room for a character, for a Bo, or Fred, Susan, um, Tim. There's no room for anything else for this life, this experiencing to be about. And so it's not possible for someone to wake up to oneness. It's not possible for a seeker to merge with God. There's only the divine. And so there's only divinity itself. And so the backwards teaching, the backwards aspect of the living method, which is Fred's teaching, and the basis for freedom beyond recovery is pointing to not only is it that the character, the self, the separate self, isn't what wakes up. It's awakeness that wakes up. But also, it's not a deficient self that needs a substance or behavior or an experience to feel better. That what's happening is awakeness is believing that it's this separate self. And when awakeness believes that it's a separate self, it is it suffers, right? There's suffering in believing that we're separate because we're not. There's just this. There's just the wholeness of what we are, which is ultimately indescribable, but it's this. It's the sense of being. It's this alive radiance. Um, this radiant, alive field of awareness. Um, that's what we are. And that's all there is. So when navigating addiction, it's that's a really essential thing to recognize that there isn't actually a self that life is happening to. There's just life. There isn't actually a deficient someone that needs some other experience or some substance to consume whatever that is, to seek, to crave, and satisfy that craving, satisfy that nagging. I need this in order to feel okay, whatever this in that statement is. There isn't actually a self that needs that. There isn't a Bo that needs um, a substance to feel better. There isn't a Bo that needs recording to go smoothly in order to be good enough. I've recorded this maybe about 20 times at this point. Regardless, there's no Bo that would benefit from this going smoother. Uh, so in recognizing that there's no bow that would benefit from life appearing a certain way or would benefit from having a substance ingested or from having a relationship look a certain way or um, from feeling full or feeling starved, right? Or having a certain amount of money, experiencing a certain amount of adrenaline, um, feeling high in any way that that can happen, right? It doesn't have to be a substance or um, if there isn't a self that is deficient and needs something outside of itself to feel complete and whole, or at the very least to feel okay, to feel better, to escape reality, life, to self soothe. There isn't actually a self to soothe. And if we stay there with that recognition, like that's what non-duality points to. That's what this whole um, approach to spirituality and recognition, this experience is pointing to, that there's just this, there's just wholeness appearing this way, there's just what is. And so if it feels like, if it seems like there's a self that this is happening to, and a self that needs to seek spiritual experiences to feel better, to be complete, a self that needs to be clearer than this, right? To be better, a self that needs a um, a substance to ease the tension of the discomfort in believing that we're separate, right? There isn't a self that can be fixed, and there's not a self that can be broken either. And so if we approach the pattern of addiction and addictive tendencies, the tendencies that all humans have in avoiding what is, in running away from what is, and trying to escape um, from what's here, right? Um, Trying to control and manage life and apparent other people that um, need to be different than how they are, so that I feel better, so I feel safe, so I feel secure. That's a never ending loop. Um, the sense of self can never feel satisfied with how this appears. Um, it can't, because it's not there. And it will never claim that, right? The thought never says, okay, now everything's good. I think I'm done complaining about what's happening, or I think I'm done arguing with how this is going, because the sense of self is based on arguing with what is based on this isn't good enough. So it's not possible for the sense of self to feel complete, to recognize its inherent wholeness, because it's not there. And because the way that it moves, expresses, whatever you want to say, it that's not, it would be completely contrary to its nature, if you want to say. Um, Bo would not be would not be Bo, whatever that is, that collection of patterns. There isn't a Bo. There's boness, but as it suggests with boness, right? It's an overlay on what's here. It's not actually necessary. Um, so but boness will never um, feel whole because a sense of something can't feel, it can't do anything, it can't speak into a microphone, it can't record a video, um, it can't present information. Um, but it also can never be good enough because by design, it's not good enough. If Bo is good enough, there wouldn't be, if Bo was good enough, then life wouldn't be about Bo because this is adequacy itself. What is already whole and complete. What you are is already whole and complete. And so, if that activity, right, that egoic activity, just rested in, okay, there's only wholeness, it would cease to exist. Not that it really does to begin with, but there's that sense, right, that fragrance. But that's also just what is appearing. That's the way wholeness is appearing. You know, like everything in this world operates as a contrast of opposites. High, low, bright, dark, whole, broken. Good enough, not good enough. Inside, outside. And so in order for it to seem like there's a character that life is happening to, that there's a me that life is in reference to, there needs to be that expression of resistance. There's no resistance in life. There's no resistance intrinsic to what you are, to what this is. And so for it to seem in an illusory way that there is a self that life is happening to, there needs to be this expression of This isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. Something should be different. I need this. I need that. An argument with what's happening, with the happening of thising. There needs to be an opposition to wholeness in order for there to be a reference point that life is appearing to and for. So we can just notice that that's why, or that's the reason. I don't know. There doesn't need to be a reason for anything. But if we, as this radiant aliveness that's intrinsically indivisible, if we can notice that this argument with what is, this need for more, this need for other that expresses in thought is just this pattern that's trying to appear as a permanent thing that's here. That's all it's doing. That's all that argument is for this activity of selfing, right? These patterns of bowness or redness, bobness. It's only arising so that the idea that there's a self at the center of experience continues. And when awakeness puts attention on that activity and believes it, it creates this sense of solidity, this this assumption that there is a self here, that there's here plus a self that here is about. It's not true at all. So it's it's beautiful. It's a miracle, that can happen, that can apparently happen. It's just a way that awakeness explores itself through imagining that it can be something in contrast to something else. What what would be more fun than infinity, dreaming of finitude? Just awakeness exploring its potentiality as this. So the backwards teaching is there's only awakeness, there's only oneness, there's only this field of aliveness. And so what's hearing these words can't be a self because there's only one thing going on. What needs something in order to feel safe, in order to feel better, in order to feel at peace? There isn't something that needs that. It only seems like that when oneness believes in thought. And that's when, that hall of mirrors, when thought thinks about itself, thoughting about thought. This effect appears. But it's not true. That's just how oneness is appearing as this patterning. Oneness doesn't need anything. There's nothing outside of oneness for oneness to need. You, oneness, awakeness, that which is hearing these words, experiencing, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, this ising of life, you're already whole. You're already complete. You are the peace that you're looking for. You are the contentment that you're seeking through these objects, through alcohol, through drugs, through experiences, materials, money, the whole, disease of more. You don't need any of that. All that you, awakeness, need is just to notice what it actually feels like to be you. Is it true that it feels like you're a body? Is that is that really your experience? Is it true that it feels like you're separate? Don't think about your experience. Just notice, does it actually feel like experiencing itself is divided in any way. If I want to imagine that there's separation, I have to reference thought. And what is it that's referencing thought? It's awakeness. Labels spontaneously arise. But just because there's thought, labels, concepts, ideas, doesn't mean anything other than there's patterns arising. There's patterning. Everything after that, and even that description, right? But everything after that is an overlay. It's unnecessary. These thoughts are about someone. There's a thinker of the thought. That's just this Hall of Mirrors effect. Thoughting about thought. So, Louise, I hope I addressed the question I was supposed to. Uh, but yeah, I'm very excited to explore this new program with you all. In my experience, it's the missing link. I wasn't able to experience authentic living, actually living a true life of recovery until I, awakeness, recognized that I already wasn't living from a position of deficiency. That's actually not, it's not about me. It can't define me. And so through non-dual inquiry, for me through the living method, but we can just say non-duality in general. Freedom is possible. In fact, that's where we start. Freedom isn't an endpoint. It's not a place to get to. It's not an experience to arrive at. Freedom is your nature. And living consciously from that recognition is, it's just an absolute gift. An absolute gift. Uh, thank you all. Um, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. And I love you. You are the wholeness that you seek. I promise.